York, WCBS News Radio 88. When you hear the tone, it will be exactly 5:30. Good morning, this is Steve Porter. The 3 Russian astronauts who spent 24 days in the Soyez space station died mysteriously during re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. Joseph Colombo shows some signs of improvement, but remains in a coma. Alaska Democrat Senator Mike Gravel reads parts of secret Pentagon Papers aloud to Senate. Governor Rockefeller signed $65 million program to combat drug use into law. Los Angeles Times story on secret Pentagon Papers says Hanoi was planning a larger war a year before American troops were committed to Vietnam. The Mets shut out Philadelphia. The Yanks walloped Cleveland. This is WCBS News Radio. Continuous news at 88 on your dial. A tragic and mysterious soft landing on Earth has obliterated the effects of the Soviet Union's spectacular space accomplishment. The 3 Russian cosmonauts who set a spaceflight endurance record and set up man's first orbiting space station are dead. The cause of the tragedy is unknown. TASS news agency announced the deaths last night after a recovery team found the lifeless bodies of the Soyuz 11 crew trapped in their seats. They just completed a re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, which TASS described as passing without a hitch. Messages of condolences to the Soviet Union are pouring in from around the world, including Washington and Houston. Russia itself is in a state of shock and mourning. Says Dr. Robert Gilruth, the director of the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston, "I am very shocked and distressed at the news. It is completely unexpected after what would appear to be a successful mission." One doctor, at the time the Soyuz 11 crew set the new endurance record, every day of the flight is now a step into the unknown. One doctor reported only hours before the fatal descent that the cosmonauts seemed slightly fatigued. Communications with the crew ceased after the braking engine on the spacecraft was fired for re-entry at 6:35 p.m. yesterday, Eastern Daylight Time. TASS says the flight of the descending apparatus ended in a smooth landing in the preset area. Investigators are now trying to determine the cause of the death. The cosmonauts had been taking good care of their health, receiving fresh garden vegetables and getting daily exercise. They reported several days ago they thought they'd even gained weight. The main scientific worry of the space team was the prolonged effective weightlessness once the cosmonauts returned to Earth. The 2 Soyuz 9 spacemen who set the previous endurance record took almost a month to readjust to the effects of gravity. Western space experts have speculated the shock of severe gravitational forces after so much time in a weightless state might have caused the death. Only one other Soviet cosmonaut is known to have died in a space accident. He was a Soyuz 1 cosmonaut who died in April of 1967 when his descent parachute fouled and the capsule crashed. No Americans have died in manned spaceflight. 3 Apollo 1 astronauts died in a Cape Kennedy launch pad fire on January 27, 1967. WCBS time is 26 minutes before 6. The temperature in New York City is 73 degrees. Freshman Senator Mike Gravel held an extraordinary hearing at the Capitol last night for the news media and the public. For more than 3 hours, Gravel, an Alaska Democrat, read aloud from parts of the top-secret Pentagon Papers. He'd been prevented from reading them on the Senate floor earlier by parliamentary maneuvering. After failing to deliver his Senate speech, Gravel invited newsmen and the public to a hearing room of the Senate office building. He distributed copies of his speech and then began reading from the Pentagon Papers. Technically, Gravel called a hearing of the Buildings and Grounds subcommittee that he had. He said he believed the Republicans knew of his plans, and in his words, the White House had to block it. Well, after 3 hours of reading, Gravel broke down with emotion and was unable to continue his attempt to put the papers on public record. He vowed to continue his reading on the Senate floor today. Well, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee has informed House members they can begin reading the top-secret Pentagon Papers in the committee's office. Chairman F. Edward Hebert told members in a letter that they couldn't take any notes or remove any of the documents from the room. He also warned the congressmen could go to jail for as much as 10 years if they pass on what they learned to unauthorized people. Well, the Los Angeles Times has published a top-secret North Vietnamese document which says Hanoi decided to fight a larger war in South Vietnam more than a year before American troops were committed to combat. The story says the document shows that the communist goal was a military victory, regardless of what the reaction of the U.S. might be. The text of the resolution was obtained in Saigon from Allied sources. It was approved by the North Vietnamese Communist Party Central Committee a month of the overthrow and assassination of President Diem in 1963. Another newspaper, the Christian Science Monitor, printed more information from the top-secret Pentagon study of the Vietnam War. It said the U.S. ignored 8 appeals for aid from Ho Chi Minh against the French in 1945 and 1946. In one appeal, Ho suggested the U.S. give autonomous status to Vietnam, similar to the Philippines, after 1934. In the war, heavy fighting is reported again around Firebase Fuller, just south of the demilitarized zone.